Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel where we talk about how to have a healthy career in tech and other things also. So we spend a lot of time at our desks in our careers, whether in tech or not. It's definitely important that we take breaks and not sit at our desk for all 40 hours of the work week because that puts a lot of strain on our bodies. But there's also a lot of tweaks and improvements you can make to your desk setup to improve our physical well-being. And that's through ergonomics. So ergonomics is the study of combining multiple different disciplines like physiology, anatomy, engineering, and psychology to create a work environment that's more suited to people's needs based on our bodies and our working styles. Now, I am nowhere near an expert in anatomy and physiology. I took like 2 bio classes in college, but I wanted to back this video up with some science. So today I have Pat Kelly from the channel Corporus, which is a channel about anatomy and physiology, here today to talk about the science behind ergonomics. Basically, he knows some body stuff and he dug up some research to help us understand what's actually good for us. Let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about all the different parts of a desk setup: chairs, desks, mice, keyboard, and monitor height, to answer the question, is ergonomics important for you and does it actually prevent injury and stress? And we'll talk about takeaways for each of those pieces so that you know how to set up your work environment at home and at the office so that it's a little bit more comfortable and more suited for your body. One thing to note though is that all of these things have to be done together, because you could have an amazing chair setup, but if your desk is not good, then what's the point, you know? So all of these things are done in conjunction with each other to create the most ergonomic setup.
Some of these pieces of advice have no real evidence behind them, but chairs, dude, chairs have a bunch of evidence behind them. And most of the research focuses on maintaining the spine's curve. Low back pain is super common and there are a bunch of things that can cause it. But sitting for a long time and bending forward are 2 of the biggest factors. To understand why though, we need a quick anatomy lesson. Your spine has this S shape. You've probably seen this before. It's super simple. There are bony vertebrae and squishy discs between them. The spinal cord runs through these holes. You have a bunch of ligaments making sure your spine doesn't move too far one way or another, and a bunch of muscles to control movement and keep you in good posture. The more you flatten out your spine, the more those squishy insides of the discs can start shifting backwards, like squishing a jelly donut. A few studies have tried to look at increasing muscle activation around the spine through something like an exercise ball or one of those wobbly stools, hoping that that will keep the spine in a better curvature. But what ends up happening is that people do it for a little bit, they slouch for a while, or they just end up getting a regular chair instead, so it completely defeats the purpose of them. Researchers think that if you keep the curve good in your lower back, then your upper back and your neck might be more inclined to keep good posture too. Research published in the journal Spine in 2010 had healthy participants try out different chair positions and examined their posture. They found that 100 degrees was good enough to improve the resting spinal curve and the neck posture, but 110 degrees was better, and adding a lumbar pillow was even better than that. A separate study in 2013 hooked little electromagnetic sensors up to people and gave them a little lumbar support, like a little pillow for behind their back, and they noticed the same thing. Not only did the participants retain that S curve in their spine, but they also reported feeling more comfortable.
And the tip here is to find a good chair. And it doesn't even have to be an expensive one, it just has to be one that provides lumbar support. And a tip that I like to use to make sure that your chair is set up for your body is to use the 90-90-90 rule. You're looking for a 90-degree angle in the knees, a 90-degree angle in the hips, and a 90-degree angle at your elbows. So raise your chair, lower your chair, whatever you gotta do to get those 90 degrees is the optimal position for you to be sitting in a chair. All right, so keyboards are the thing that I think I pay the most attention to in a setup. I try to use a split keyboard as much as possible because otherwise my wrists hurt. Hey Pat, is this actually a thing?
It's totally a thing with a cool backstory. Back in the 1960s, this dude named Dr. Carl Kromer wanted to find like the best ergonomic setup for a keyboard. So he took this QWERTY keyboard, split it in half, and if there was a way that he could tweak it, he tried it. Obviously the wrist moves in a bunch of different ways, but the first move that seemed to make a difference was a motion called pronation. A flat keyboard puts your wrist at 90 degrees of pronation, and from his experiments, he found that people preferred 40 to 55 degrees of pronation. He also tried something he called a K keyboard, which was angled 30 degrees and had hinges in the middle. These things hung from under the desks and the participants would touch type, like they couldn't see the keyboard. Other experiments in the 80s confirmed the same thing. Split keyboards with some level of inclination were rated more comfortable. But two things can get in the way of that. The first is typing accuracy. If you decide to buy an ergonomic keyboard and find yourself making typing mistakes all of a sudden, you'll probably switch back to the old one. Research has shown that our bodies aren't good at picking up those small tweaks in keyboards immediately. It takes about 4 months to see the effects. So you have to hang in there for a while, otherwise you might not see the point in sticking with the objectively healthier design. The other thing that gets in the way is aesthetics, which I'm sure you saw coming. More people will often choose the aesthetically pleasing version of a keyboard than the ergonomic keyboard. There is actual research that has shown this.
And the practical takeaways here are to use a split keyboard. And be sure to use it for at least 4 months because it takes about that long for you to see the benefits of using a split keyboard. And beware of form over function. I know that ergonomic keyboards are not the slickest in design all the time, but if you do use one, they can prevent some serious wrist damage.
So the mouse thing isn't as clear cut as the past two things. Usually this is when we'd start talking about repetitive strain injury, which you probably know as RSI. It's this catch-all term for overuse injuries like carpal tunnel. It's built off this idea that if you do anything with a joint over and over and over, it's only a matter of time before you develop RSI and experience pain. That means there's never gonna be a single one-size-fits-all best ergonomic input device, but this kinda ends up being a blessing in disguise. Like traditional mice use different muscles and movement patterns compared to trackballs or trackpads or styluses on tablets. Research in the International Journal of Industrial Ergonomics showed this. They found that trackballs create less shoulder and neck strain than mice, but create more wrist extension, which comes with its own problems. Now, there's evidence from a bunch of different industries, not just computer work, that shows that switching up your tools can help decrease RSI symptoms. So the solution seems to be switching input devices often, and learning how to use your other hand. The trick to that is that it just takes some time to get used to. Research from 2005 found that training with a mouse in the non-dominant hand for 30 minutes a day for 3 weeks was good enough to get you used to alternating without it affecting your productivity.
Takeaway wise, the best thing is to definitely use a mouse that's comfortable to you. And if you can, change up your mouse every so often so you're using a different one. And take breaks. Your wrists need a little bit of R&R, you know?
Assuming everything else is dialed in with your 90-90-90 rule, then there is a little bit of wiggle room for the ideal monitor height and monitor depth. Our big goal here is maintaining neck posture. According to a study from 1998, neck muscles were less strained from 0 degrees to 17.5 degrees, and below 35 degrees, it was way more uncomfortable. That's because the human eye has a comfortable range that it can gaze up, down, or side to side. Follow-up research in 1999 reported that most people found it more comfortable to gaze between neutral and negative 26 degrees, as opposed to slightly above neutral and slightly below neutral. If you're using an external monitor on an arm or a stand, then the height is pretty easy to adjust, right? Where it gets trickier is when you only have a laptop. Maybe you're constrained to your couch or kitchen table, but if you're using a laptop, your screen is way lower than 17.5 degrees. So you either end up bending your neck, which is not preferred, or you bring some kind of riser. But even that's troubling because now your wrists aren't in an ergonomic position anymore. I mean, it was a laptop keyboard anyway, so it already wasn't great ergonomics, but you get what I'm trying to say.
And the advice that I've heard from ergonomists at companies that I've worked at all support these facts. So try setting your monitor at 0 degrees with your eyes so you're looking straight at the top of your monitor first. See how that feels for a couple hours or a couple days and adjust accordingly depending on how it feels to you. And while you're trying out different monitor heights, take note of your posture and take note of whether you're straining your neck or your shoulders or any other muscles. All of us have different bodies, so there's probably going to be a good monitor height that's different for all of us, because with everything in life and in tech, it depends. So I think when a lot of people think about ergonomic setups, they often think about standing desks. Now, I've had mine for a little over a year now, and I feel like they generally make me feel better. And Pat's got some interesting facts about the relationship between desks and ergonomics.
The science behind seated desk height is pretty straightforward. If your desk sets you up to follow the 90-90-90 rule, you're golden. But starting around 2012, more reports started coming out about sitting as the new smoking. Like if you sit all day, you're gonna die early. So of course, everybody panicked. Okay, we need some nuance here. People who spend most of the day seated have about a 10 to 20% increased risk of dying from heart disease. That is a big deal. But people who smoke have about a 200% increased risk of dying from heart disease. So even that statistic needs some more nuance attached to it, but no, sitting is not smoking. Let's keep that in mind. Either way, we do spend a lot of our working hours seated, so standing desks became more popular and the research followed after it. Now, I know a couple people who bought sit-stand desks and never stand at them. They're always in the seated position. So a big question in the research is, how much of a difference do these sit-stand desks actually make? A 2018 study took 24 office workers in New Zealand and swapped half of their seated desks for electric adjustable height desks, basically a motorized sit-stand desk. All 24 of them tracked their activity with pedometers and exercise diaries. And that was it. The research group didn't tell them to move more, they just saw what happened. And as expected, the group that switched to adjustable desks moved around more during the day, got more steps, and reported more activity in their free time. That study didn't measure any metrics of fitness or disease, just activity, which is still important for sure. Other studies have found that workers will sit less if they receive any amount of ergonomics training, which is cool, but it's really just like an example of the Hawthorne effect in action. That 2018 New Zealand study was clearly for the people who were asking, will I be more active if I buy this standing desk? And while it's a small sample size and it's early days research, the answer seems to be yes, although everybody's different.
So basically, a desk isn't necessarily important or prevent injury or stress ergonomically speaking, but it is better for you health-wise because it keeps you moving. So now that we've been through all the different parts, is ergonomics actually important? Yes, it is. And does it actually prevent you from injury and stress? Again, yes. But like I said at the beginning of the video, all of these things have to be done together for those things to be true. So to summarize, get a chair with lumbar support, use a split keyboard and use it for at least 4 months, get a mouse that's comfortable, play around with your monitor height, and standing desks help you move. And thank you so much to Pat for being in the video today to provide the science behind it all. His channel, Corporus, is linked in the description box down below, so be sure to check out his stuff. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That'll just tell me whether you like this video more than average, which is all I gotta know. And leave a comment down below letting us know if any of these tips were helpful to you, and be sure to click subscribe and the notification bell so that you are notified when my videos go live. All right, that's it for today. I will see you in the next one. Have a great day wherever you are. Bye.